Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Stony Brook News, brought to you by Stony Brook Media Group. Our top story today, the primaries. The first primary for the 2022 midterm elections have officially begun in Texas. Republican Governor Greg Abbott won the Republican primaries with 66% of the votes. Abbott is looking to gain a third term in office and will now face Democratic primary runner Beto O'Rourke in the November 2022 Texas governor race. O'Rourke won his party's primary with 91% of the votes. It will be a hard journey for him as a Democratic governor has not been elected in over 30 years in the state of Texas. Greg Abbott claimed on Twitter that a red wave is coming for Texas. President Joe Biden gave his first ever State of the Union address to Congress this past Tuesday. As inflation is higher than it's ever been in 40 years, Biden acknowledges that American people are worried. To fight inflation, he claims the way is to lower costs, not wages, by making more in America and not relying on foreign supply chains. As Ukraine enters its first full week of Russian invasions, Biden condemns the actions of Russian President Vladimir Putin. In an effort to emphasize the fight between democracy and autocracy, Biden opened up his speech with "Freedom will always triumph over tyranny." For more on Ukraine, reporter Melanie Formosa has the latest.
The Stony Brook Media Group is attempting to partner up and create a global news network to get the points of views of students all across the world. Today, we will be talking to Léa Lemaire, a French student in a preparatory program for journalism. Léa, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yesterday, Emmanuel Macron talked to Putin and said the worst is yet to come. What are the sentiments in France right now?
Yeah, I heard on the news they spoke together. French people are a bit concerned, but not that much, since the war isn't now in our country. But I don't know, people still discuss about it. They're just not very worried.
France must be concerned. I mean, it was involved in World War II. There's crisis going on. I'm sure the tensions are high.
Yeah, I mean, the adults are worried, but I don't know if you went on Twitter or something like that, because the Gen Z, they're just making jokes about it. So they seem not to realize what's happening. So I don't know, some are concerned, some are not. Some said Emmanuel Macron should stay out of it. Some said he was right to just join the discussion with Putin. So it seems like people disagree with this. And I don't know, it's like 50-50.
This war has had an impact on the global economy. What's that of France?
Yeah, I heard about that, but we don't feel the consequences yet, so I can't tell you much about it.
Well, Macron is the European ambassador to Putin. And how are you covering that as a student journalist?
Yeah, for now we had like 3 hours class about it in my journalism school, in my school journalism. Yeah, I don't know. And we spoke about that, but we don't really keep we keep an eye on the actuality, like 24/7, because there's a lot happening, but we don't write about it for now, since we are just students.
Well, we'll check back with you in the next couple of weeks and see how this all progresses. Thank you so much for your time, Léa.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
I'm sitting here with reporter Justin Mitzelmaker. Now, I know both of your parents were born in what is today Ukraine, so give us a little update to the human side of the story.
Sharon, a lot has happened since we first covered the war in Ukraine just last week. Recently, it was announced that over 1 million refugees have fled Ukraine in just 7 days. While the headlines subject these people to numbers, each individual fleeing their homeland has a story to tell. Yesterday, I was fortunate enough to speak with 2 refugees in the Russian language. The first, a mother whose husband had to stay behind due to Ukraine's martial law. Take a listen.
Около 5 мы услышали у нас в Одессе взрывы. Один раз, потом второй раз подскочили, испугались, не поняли вообще, что происходит. И потом уже передали о том, что у нас ввели военное положение, и, по сути, началась война в Украине. Все, о чем я успела подумать, это то, что нужно брать дочку и срочно бежать, потому что, какие варианты. Оставаться там уже небезопасно, и как бы нужно было найти какой-то выход, чтобы как-то побыстрее оттуда уехать. Вот. Мы собрались буквально за каких-то минут, наверное, 20. Поэтому я с собой вообще ничего не взяла. Там какие вещи успела, схватила, и надо было убегать.
Как ты это объяснишь своей дочке?
Я ей сказала, что у нас война началась. А еще так сложились обстоятельства, что, получается, мы уехали, а на следующий день дочке исполнялось 5 лет. Вот, и у нее день рождения, у нас было все в Одессе заказано, праздник, все там аниматоры, она очень ждала, очень хотела, все гости. И тут получается так, что мы оказались здесь в этот день, и, ну, в общем, я успела схватить ее подарок из дома, который я ей подготовила, и как бы здесь подарила, и вот это весь праздник, который сложился. Ну, еще волонтеры, которые дали нам квартиру, они узнали, что у малышки день рождения, и принесли ей тортик. И это было очень мило, очень приятно, хоть как-то, чтобы ребенку была хоть какая-то радость. Я, конечно, ее поддерживаю, говорю, что мы обязательно вернемся домой, и все будет хорошо, но мы на самом-то деле сами не знаем, как оно будет, и будет ли вообще, и очень страшно, когда постоянно читаешь эти новости про взрывы, 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 и в своем городе, и не в своем.
Что ты хочешь, чтобы американцы знали про эту войну?
Я хочу, чтобы вы знали, что мы ни в чем не виноваты, мы первые не нападали ни на кого. Нам хорошо живется в Украине, мы хотим спасти нашу страну, мы хотим, чтобы у нас все были живы, здоровы, и чтобы никогда не было войны. И нам эта война не нужна, мы ее не провоцировали. Не знаю, мы хотим просто спасти наши города, жизни и нашу страну.
Дай Бог, дай Бог.
Вернуться домой. Вернуться домой. Все хотят домой.
Valeria told me that with more refugees coming into Moldova each day, there is now a lack of housing, and many women and children are sleeping in places like gymnasiums. The next refugee is in Germany and is part of Generation Z. She gave me a glimpse of her biggest fears and what she hopes to see from her Russian neighbors.
Чего ты больше всего боишься?
Больше всего я, наверное, боялась и боюсь, потому что я уезжала одна, вся моя семья осталась там. И мне было просто страшно из-за того, что я вот куда-то еду, а они все там, и я не буду... Ну, мне казалось, что мы как бы держим связь все время, но мне казалось, что я все равно не буду знать, что с ними, как с ними. И, наверное, было бы проще, если бы они все уехали, и я бы знала, что они все в безопасности, а я, допустим, если бы осталась, мне бы было вот даже это легче как-то пережить. Но вроде как я уговорила их уехать, и они сейчас даже не будут переселять. Но все равно переживаю, потому что у меня там все равно остается бабушка и дедушка, потому что они очень пожилые уже, и им тяжело будет куда-то переехать. Вот. И остается папа и жених младшей сестры, она тоже очень переживает, потому что они призывного возраста и мужчин не выпускают. Весь мир пытается как-то изолировать Россию, много чего отключают и так далее. Я не уверена, что это поможет. Возможно, это как-то остановит, сделает им какой-то кризис экономический, но с любого экономического кризиса можно выбраться. А когда у людей забирают просто жизни, и все эти блогеры, артисты, простые жители говорят, мы не можем выйти на улицы, высказать свое мнение, потому что нас посадят в тюрьму. Не посадят. Если выйдет прям вся страна, просто не хватит места, чтобы всех посадить. И посадят — это не смерть. Ну, сидеть в тюрьме — это все равно есть какая-то жизнь. А когда у маленьких детей в Киеве, которых просто уже нет, ну, уже все. Там и у детей жизнь закончилась, и у их родителей. Потому что самое страшное — это потерять своего ребенка. Поэтому нужно обязательно говорить и высказывать свое мнение, как бы ни запрещалось, потому что если будут высказывать все, вот каждый думает, я не пойду, потому что я боюсь. А если бы каждый переборол в себе вот это «боюсь», и прям все бы вышли и сказали бы свое «нет», то, возможно, все бы это закончилось.
A powerful statement there from Adisa Mamashova. Speaking of the Russian economy, reporter Sarah Ruberg is here to explain the pile of sanctions dropped on the Kremlin.
Thanks, Justin. The global economic impact of the Ukraine-Russia crisis is rapidly shifting, and it might be weeks, months, or even years until we feel all of its consequences. One thing we do know, it's going to impact the entire world and its markets. So far, the US alongside European countries, including the entirety of the EU and the UK, have imposed major sanctions on Russia since it began its invasion of Ukraine. Some Asian countries have also imposed sanctions, but the US sanctions are some of the harshest in the world right now. President Biden has banned American companies and people from doing business with Russia's central bank, sending a message to the rest of the world to follow suit. Western companies have been backing out of business with Russia. Shell, BP, Exxon, Apple, General Motors, and more have halted or completely ended business with Russia. Even Warner Brothers stepped in, saying that they would not show the new Batman movie in Russia. These cut ties will have harsh implications, not just for Russia, but for everyone, considering Russia is a huge player in the global economy. But sanctions like these are not for nothing. It will help prevent Putin from funding his war waged on Ukraine. Most recently, Biden has promised to go after Russian oligarchs, specifically attacking their assets, freezing their bank accounts, and docking their yachts. One of the most powerful moves made by NATO this week was removing Russia from the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications, referred to commonly more as SWIFT. Before this week, you probably never heard of SWIFT. The system is used for quick communication between banks around the world. Its purpose is to communicate cross-border money transfers and payments in a fast but secure way. Since most of the international trade is done in dollars, euros, and yen, cutting Russia out of the SWIFT system also means it will be more difficult for Russia to get its hands on Western money for trade. This decision comes from numerous Western countries, hoping to show a united front against Russia. All of the EU, UK, and Canada and the US had to agree in order to move forward in isolating Russia from the rest of the world. Whether or not their efforts will pay off is yet to be known. Plenty of countries are still hinting at more sanctions, including the US. More to come. Back to Justin with more on the crisis in Ukraine.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for explaining the economic side of things and how Russia is being affected. But how can we help Ukraine right here from home? I'm joined now with Isabella Vinokurov, who is one of the founders of the Archers Project, a local charity organization from Brooklyn, New York, who has raised over almost 4,000 items, new items from Amazon to send over to people in Ukraine. Isabella, what inspired this initiative?
What inspired us for this initiative was the current events that are taking place in Ukraine. It has hit very close to home for our team. We're all children of Ukrainian Jewish immigrants. As our families came here to give us a better life, watching the situation unfold has been super heartbreaking, and we wanted to find a way to help in any way possible. The same way the civilians are volunteering to help defend their country is the same instinct we have to support and aid them in their defense.
And Isabella, tell me, how are you getting all of these brand new items to Ukraine in a war zone?
So being the fact that there are no direct flights to Ukraine, there are flights leaving every single day to Poland. And from Poland, they are unloaded and loaded onto a truck, which is then, it drives to a neighboring city in Ukraine that is on the border of Poland. And it is then all the items are distributed to all the people that are there.
Well, that is fantastic news that you are all taking this initiative. Thank you for that. And that concludes our segment for Ukraine for today. We hope that you have taken something strong away from this as we continue to monitor the situation. And stay tuned for Tuesday and Friday's show next week for further updates. Back to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Justin, for the report. Stony Brook University lifted its indoor mask mandate on Wednesday. Faculty, staff, students, and visitors on West Campus are no longer required to wear masks. This applies to classroom settings and common meeting spaces. The announcement was made through an email sent to students on Monday. The university's email informs that the new policy is aligned with an updated SUNY guidance and with New York State's new guideline. CDC metrics from last Friday show that Long Island met requirements to end mask mandates. Governor Kathy Hochul announced on Sunday that her plans were to end the mask requirements in K-12 schools starting on Wednesday. According to the state government's official website, Governor Hochul based herself on the analysis of COVID data trends and on conversation with parents, school administrators, teachers, and health and educational experts. However, Stony Brook medicine employees are still required to wear masks at all times, regardless of their work location. For students on the West Campus, mandatory test schedules must continue to be followed. Long Island's Pride Parade is set to return for the first time since the pandemic. The parade will take place in the village of Farmingdale on June 12th. The parade originally started in 1970 and was organized by the Christopher Street Liberation Day Committee. Much anti-LGBTQ legislation has been passed in several states, so organizers hope that the parade will bring a sense of unity to the community. The Stony Brook chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People showed its pride for Stony Brook students by hosting their 2022 Image Awards this past Saturday.
The NAACP Image Awards is an annual event that has been celebrating the accomplishments of people of color since 1967. Stony Brook University's chapter continues that tradition.
The theme, Old Black Hollywood, and Stony Brook students closed out Black History Month this past Saturday with a night of revelry, awards, and performances.
So I think it's important to hold these kind of events on campus because it really helps with representation, knowing that my culture and my blackness is represented. So to see us come together for events such as these, it's really heartwarming, and it's feels like home away from home.
The keynote speaker was Dr. Patrice Nagong, who encouraged the students to not only take care of themselves, but also the earth.
You have to be aware of the value of your own body because it's unique, of the value of the earth on which you are because it's unique.
Stony Brook has many multicultural organizations that provide unity and inclusion among its student body.
Not only do we want to help underrepresented students make meaningful bonds during their college experience, we will also want other people who aren't, students of color to be exposed to different cultures.
This is Catherine Procacci with the Stony Brook Media Group.
Thank you for tuning in this afternoon, and have a great first week of Women's History Month. For Stony Brook Media Group, I'm Sharon Samuel.